His test so far, but Roberto Firmino scored the all-important goal once again.
We sat down with a man back to full fitness in Fabinho, as well as their leader at the back, Virgil van Dijk.
Later in the show, we'll also be focusing on the teams that have work to do with 1 week left in the transfer window as we assess the problems that remain at Man United.
Michael Owen is one happy former Liverpool star joining us today. He's joined by journalist Miguel Delaney and former Premier League player and manager and winner Tim Sherwood.
We start with the last match before the FA Cup weekend as Liverpool travel to Molineux.
Brilliant game, brilliant performance by Wolves, but yet another win for Liverpool, which means that as we come into the end of January, Liverpool are 16 points clear of Manchester City with a game in hand. Wolves, though, very much part of that chasing pack that are looking for European football and possibly thinking of mounting a challenge for the top four. And if you look at the CAN table, which represents the number of points that the teams have and the distances between them, you can see how far ahead Liverpool are of Manchester City and Leicester. But you can also see how congested it is in the centre of the table and then in that battle to avoid the bottom. Wolves very much in contention for European places, along with Man United, Tottenham and Sheffield United at the moment. But you can really see the difference between Liverpool and not just to Manchester City and Leicester, but to the rest of the table. It just shows you how far ahead they are. And it's almost as if your prediction might be about to come true.
Yeah, it was a very good prediction of mine. I predicted that they would do it, even when they missed out by 1 point, and I didn't see anything that's going to make me feel that they weren't going to put that same pressure on Manchester City as they did the season before. And what they've done this season is they've learnt that draws weren't good enough, and they've started on fire. They just started and they put pressure on Man City. Man City, unfortunately, got injuries to key players, and you know, Liverpool have just continued to win. And it's almost like now, for me, it's inevitable that they're going to do it. The fact is that they've been relentless. They've not given anybody the opportunity to come back at them. None at all.
However, they won't have had many tougher games than that one against Wolves. That was a real test. Well,
if they're looking to go unbeaten for the rest of the season, which is obviously got to be an aim now because the title is up, as everyone knows, then that was one of the potential stumbling blocks along the way. Wolves are an exceptional team. They were brilliant last night. They were very unlucky, actually, to lose so many times this season. So it just shows you they can do it anyway. If you want to fight them, they've got big, strong leaders. You want to play football, they're brilliant at that. They are the real deal.
Like I said, they've been so relentless. In the end now, you've seen City, they've fallen off, and now it's just a procession for me, for Liverpool.
Do you think it's flipped around in that sense, that City's, the pace City set is actually coming back to bite them?
Absolutely.
It's raised Liverpool's level and that they can't sustain it.
Talking about finding different ways to win, they went for a Jordan Henderson header, or header-ish, for the opening goal for Liverpool.
That's right. He doesn't score many. He certainly doesn't score many headers, and we've been discussing, can you class this as a header? I think it starts off coming off the head, but then it hits the shoulder. It's a little bit of a similar goal to the game against Manchester United. Trent Alexander, right-footed, out-swinging corner into the same area. Van Dijk nodded it in that time, but it was Jordan Henderson with a rare header stroke shoulder this time.
But Wolves were so good. We knew that they were going to be a big test for Liverpool ahead of this game. It was talked about as the one that they could potentially end that unbeaten run. And there were certainly a few nervous moments from Wolves, none more so than when they actually pulled themselves level.
Yeah, and the way they pulled themselves level is the way they've been playing. You look at this brilliant, not tight enough on him, and his link-up play is brilliant, but he's not satisfied, so he's still linking up the play. And when you've got someone like Traore, he's sucked Robertson in, and then he's gone wide, and then this is where he used to fall down with the cross, but then, you know, it's a great cross, and it's a fantastic header. He's not just hit the target, he knows exactly where he's putting that header. That is top draw. Brilliant, fantastic stuff.
You're a big fan of Raúl Jiménez,
Massive fan, massive fan. As long as the striker's scoring, I like them. As soon as they stop scoring, I'll go to someone else.
You'd be all right with Roberto Firmino then.
Absolutely.
But Raúl Jiménez with 20 goals and 9 assists, which is a goal involvement of 29, which is more than any other Premier League player. When you look at the names on that list, it's just an extraordinary achievement from him. They didn't come away with at least the point that they would have thought that they deserved from that game because of Roberto Firmino, Tim.
Absolutely. A lot has to go down to the recruitment there. I mean, it's been outstanding. You know, Moutinho,
Neto, seeing him have a little cameo last night, he was outstanding there, dribbling it, taking it to people. Yotto is one of the best number 10s in the league for me. You know, Adama Traore, who I had at Aston Villa, who never looked like anything like that. But Nuno has brought him on and he's developed into a top-class player. The recruitment is fantastic. And now at this time, it's very topical, and the transfer window is open. And a lot of top teams, Man United, are struggling to find players to strengthen them. Now, I could think of 6 players who play for Wolves who were strengthened Manchester United. So why can they find them? And teams like United can't. Now, you have to ask the question, something seriously wrong at your club.
We will come on to that later on. In the moment, though, we're going to concentrate on the very top of the league and look at that winner by Roberto Firmino with 6 minutes left to go. Did it feel like it was coming, or was it completely against the run of play?
You just can never write them off. You know, you look at where he's gone out to get the of Jordan Henderson was just magnificent. And once he's in this position, it's over. It's over for him, and you know he comes up with the goods all the time. He's so good.
Such good work by Mohamed Salah as well, and for Jordan Henderson taking it off Salah to make sure, because there were a couple of times in the game where other players were getting frustrated they didn't pass. He wasn't going to do it that time. Jordan Henderson did it for him.
Exactly.
Make sure that Firmino got his opportunities. So that means that Liverpool's unbeaten run is stretched even further. They're on an extraordinary run of form. That's 40 games now, which brings them level with the Chelsea team of 2004-2005. Nottingham Forest in the 1970s, their unbeaten run was ended by Liverpool. And, of course, the Arsenal 2003-2004 team were on that 49-game unbeaten run as part of the Invincible season. We're talking about Liverpool setting themselves different targets as the season goes on. Can Liverpool be invincible this season? I
think they can be invincible. I don't think it's the last thing on their minds at the minute, because we know how important it is for them to win the Premier League. If being invincible comes along in that run, and you've got to go back, you know, with them winning the Champions League as well, then you have to say it's an unbelievable effort from them. But I think at the moment that will only add more pressure to them, trying to think of going unbeaten. Rather than just finishing off the league and getting that done first.
I mean, looking at the stats, those for Liverpool this season are slightly up on the ones, or down in case of shots faced. But, you know, they're slightly up on what Arsenal did in that season. But a lot of the players who were part of that team have talked about the pressure of remaining unbeaten that sometimes held them back in games, that stopped them maybe going for the win rather than...
And to be fair to this Liverpool, a lot of people constantly mentioning the amount of draws that Arsenal had in that season, which, you know, it's still not losing. But you're looking at a team like Liverpool who, you know, they're still not hit that unbelievable, fluid, beautiful football, but they win games. They find a way to win games like that Wolverhampton game. I'm sure they would have been happy with a 0-0. I mean, a 1-1, I should say, a draw in that game, because they were so good. But then in the end, they've got the quality to be able to win that game.
And that might be their motivation now as well, to go unbeaten, because the league's over. What are you going to do for the next sort of 15 games or so? But to write yourself in the history books is obviously a big motivation. And it will be interesting to see what Jurgen Klopp does with his squad as well now. Will he, as soon as he wins the league, you might have another 10 games to go, you know, will he start resting players and concentrating on the Champions League? Even FA Cup, they've played their kids in the FA Cup. All of a sudden, you think to yourself, well, should you reverse that and target more trophies? Because, you know, they're going to win it with so many games left to play.
Michael, you had a bit of that in 2010 United, didn't you, where it was until February they were unbeaten against Wolves, actually. How much that play in the dressing room in that sense? So where you could have... Did you actually start to believe it was possible?
Oh, I think you do. It's in the back of your mind. And of course, they can't finish a game without us interviewing them. And it's the first thing you say, you know, you're getting excited about winning the league. What about, can you go unbeaten? I mean, it's definitely in their mind. And as I say, at some point, they're going to win the league and they're going to have like dead rubber games. To the extent that we've probably never seen before. So they're going to have something that's going to really motivate them. And I think going on a run... I read somewhere the other day, I think it was Steve Nicol, the ex-Liverpool player, saying he'd prefer to go a season unbeaten and win the Premier League than to win the double of Champions League and the Premier League. I mean, it's staggering for me. But it just shows you that it is something that you can be very proud of. Not many teams go unbeaten throughout the season. Yeah,
it'd be unusual for players to not want to have that trophy lift moment, to have something that doesn't come with the medal at the end of it. But it does, like you say, it illustrates just how highly regarded that achievement would be.
But it's an added incentive also for the teams playing against them. You know, if I'm next in line, I sat down last night. I thought tonight's the night. I mean, they've got the ammunition to hurt Liverpool. They're going to Molineux. They're going to be up. There's an added incentive in that dressing room and say, we'll be the team. The longer it goes, there's more incentive for the next one. We tried it when we played against the Arsenal side. There's nothing we wanted more than to stop their run for them to be invincibles. And that is, but later on in the season, some of the teams, not so much because it's so competitive, the nature of the Premier League. So wherever you are, you've got something to fight for.
Yeah.
But this is the champions. They will be champions. In a couple of months, they will be champions. They will still be coming. Their only thing left is to go invincible. For you to play against them and to stop that unbeaten run and be the party poopers, that's massive. It certainly would be for me. I like spoiling parties.
and you do it very well.
Thank you.
But the other side of it as well, it's not even just about first beating them. It's actually about stopping them in any way because of the extent of this win and run. I mean, what they're doing is actually almost kind of brain scrambling in that way because the exact levels of it. I mean, if you remember when the Premier League, first started, that would be First Division became Premier League, and United kind of set a tone with everyone used to talk about how demoralising it was that Ferguson's team, they'll always get the last minute winner or last minute equaliser. And yet Liverpool are levels beyond that because it's not just kind of saving games every so often. It's that every single game they eventually just find a way to not just get the result but actually win. I mean, it's just... I don't know, but I mean, for a lot of teams facing them, must be, Christ, this is...
Yeah.
But as much as they could take confidence from it, would it knock the confidence of their opposition, knowing that they have a team that's... And like as Tim's saying, it can be you can use it as motivation, or as long as the game goes on, you think this Liverpool team could be back in this, even if you are beating them or drawing against them.
But even when we talk about Liverpool and they're getting it done. We're not seeing that scintillating Manchester City football, when Man City were doing something, just playing people off the park, but they're getting it done. And when you're standing in the tunnel with a team that even when they're playing poorly, they're getting it done, it's even more difficult for you because the first thing you're thinking when you're in there is, suppose this is the day when they totally get it right the way they play, because when they don't get it right, they can still beat you. So it's very hard to get yourself going to try and beat them. You stay in the game as long as you can, and then what you see is something like what Roberto Firmino does. He comes up with the goods at the end because we've got such quality players on the pitch.
Jurgen Klopp's going to be speaking later on today when we'll hopefully get an update on the fitness of Sadio Mane, but he came off injured in the game with just about half an hour gone. I'm not going to say could that derail Liverpool's title challenge, but how are they going to cope for the games that they're going to be missing, and what will they do, do you think?
I don't think it's serious for starters. I mean, he walked off without a limp. I'm told it's a hamstring injury and that it's not too bad, is what I'm hearing. Now, they play in the FA Cup this weekend away at Shrewsbury. He wasn't going to play in that anyway. And then they've got 2 games coming up that you wouldn't say are against any of the top teams either. And then they've got a break of, I don't know, a week, 10 days, something like that. So in my opinion, he's going to miss 2 games that he would potentially have played. I mean, he might even be able to play in the second of those games. You never know. But why would you risk it? I mean, he might even be able to play in the second of those games. You never know. But why?
Pulled up because Mo Salah had the ball and he knew he wasn't going to give it to him. Pulled up because Mo Salah had the ball and he knew he wasn't going to give it to him. But in the end, he's obviously felt a cramp
felt
in
a
that
little
place.
something. That's the thing. What people don't realise is that sometimes you feel like, what was that? If it's the hamstring and you feel it, even that little tweak there, you should do exactly what he's done there.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
not
10
going to get
days
any
more
better.
than 6 weeks.
Hamstring muscle injuries don't get any better the longer you keep playing. At the minute, and as I say, we're all guessing, but at the minute it's looking like it's only going to be, a week, 10 days out. But if he had continued, as Wright said, the next stage is a 6-week injury. And you don't want to be doing that when you've got so many big games coming up. And if I were Jurgen Klopp, I'd just be looking at the next 3 games, as I say, one in the FA Cup, a couple of Premier League games that you'd expect them to win without him, and then get them fully firing again because Champions League's about to start again soon.
Yeah, it's all about now.